Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello, and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today I've got a very special guest with me. Her name is V Martinez, and she's a traditional, complementary, and integrative healing practitioner. And that's a lot of words, but they're impactful words. And she's come out to the Gardens of Hope, and we're talking about working together and integrating these practices using our therapeutic horticulture in our gardens. So, V, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Really good. Thank you, Joe, for having me.
Awesome. Well, it's been a treat. We've been able to come out here and visit, and you've been able to see the gardens a little bit. We've been able to sit and talk a little bit about things we do here in our therapeutic horticulture programs. And I'd like to learn a little bit about you and the things that you bring. First of all, tell me just, what was your thought about just being out here in the gardens?
I just felt this relaxed zone as I was walking by and getting all the scents in.
Nice.
It's a beautiful property, lots of lush flora and fauna. I saw a bunch of little lizards. Yep. I saw your owl pet.
Yeah.
Have you named them? Her?
There's a bunch of them. Okay. So there's hims and hers. There's about 4 different types of owls, and you can stick around out here into the sunset, and you just see them all flying around. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You saw the one up in the
tree.
I think that's a male.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but
I could just see the eyes.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
Like maybe a white horned owl.
It's a barn owl.
Barn owl.
Yeah, but we have my wife. I don't know if she showed you the picture of that horned owl.
No.
That about a month ago, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, I was in my worst point with this cancer, and I was really in a bad spot. She comes out and she goes, "Honey, you got to see this." And I hobble myself outside, and there's this fledgling great horned owl, still had down feathers on him, and he was sitting in a tree only about 8 or 9 feet high, so you could just look at him. She got up on a ladder and literally got right up. She was shooting pictures, shooting videos, talking to him. He was there all day.
Cute.
All day. He spent the day with us.
They're fascinating.
And then in the evening, you heard the parents clicking away, talking to him, and then he flew off, and we haven't seen him since.
Okay.
So just beautiful, though. And they're our pest control. They keep all of our rodents down, and we don't use any kind of poisons or anything.
Something about their eyes just makes me feel like they really penetrate my soul. That was probably the second time I've seen an owl eye to eye.
Nice.
The first time was through
binoculars.
Yeah. I was like, it's not a telescope. Binoculars that a random person just lent me, and they were looking right at them, and me and my friend were just hiking, and I'm like, can we borrow them? Right when I put them on, it went from being turned to I saw the whole head turn.
Nice, isn't that wild that they can turn their whole head around? Yeah. That's wild.
And it just hit my soul
whoa!
Yeah. I couldn't stop, and my friend's like, "Okay, kids let
them go. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a great intro to your garden.
Yeah.
As we walk around, there's different zones for different modes. And
absolutely.
I absolutely can feel the vibe of every zone. It's just kind of like this, I'm entering this more group space, or I'm entering this more private space.
There's these different rooms, we sort of
outdoor rooms,
pathways that go all around. And, it's funny, it's only 2.5 acres, but you can walk around as much as a 10-acre property, because there's literally just pathways that go here and there. And if you notice, when you walk along, you'll stop and you'll look in a place and you'll notice what it is, the zone, the room. And then you walk a few steps, 10 or 15 steps, and all of a sudden you look back and you can't even see where you were.
That's exactly what I did earlier when I went to my car.
Like, wait a minute.
I was like, wait a minute. Did I just pass the zone, or where? You kind of get lost, even though it's not very big.
It's not that big.
I think it's the way the landscape is laid out.
It's three-dimensional too.
It is, and it's also kind of sloped.
Yeah.
And it slopes in and out as you walk.
Exactly.
So I think that adds a lot of dimension to it.
There's a lot of,
it adds more than the 2
And plus
acres.
Not being able to see
what's on
very far. You can
bush.
see this one little bush and this tree and just maybe a feature or water or whatever, but you can't see any farther than that.
I like that.
And it's like, I found this space, and then there's little places to sit all over the place. There's even logs that you can just sit down, and chairs and tables kind of all over. And so it's
hidden art.
Yeah. Little pieces.
Sitting with like this mouth open.
Yeah.
It's very like bright-eyed.
Yep.
Just in the corner that blends in, but
exactly.
It kind of doesn't. And you're like, oh, this trippy thing.
And every time, I walk around this place multiple times a day for 30 years. Yeah. And I've always seen something new. Mm-hmm. Every single time I walk around, every morning I get up and I walk around with my dogs and I look for that new thing.
Yeah, that's
There's
beautiful.
Always a flower that opened up, or an owl feather that landed, or some bird that I hadn't seen before, but it's always something new.
And you were mentioning that, I think it was your wife, 30 years ago, it was all flat land.
It was nothing. Well, I mean, the hill was still there, but yeah, there was nothing. The plants weren't here, the driveway wasn't here, the pool wasn't here, the house wasn't here, the most of the trees, none of the plants. It was just old
beautiful space.
Yeah, so a lot of love and a lot of healing. A lot of people have gained a lot of peace. A lot of grief has been overcome. A lot of anxiety. A lot of everything. So I'd like to hear about, your practices. You have a pretty wide range of healing arts that you work with. I know you work with herbs and you do some formulation. I know you deal with some Eastern medicine practices. You deal with a bunch of different things. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your background? What got you into this?
That's a good question. I've been into alternative medicine from a very young age through my mom's influence.
Okay.
I was vegetarian from the age of, fourth grade through around high school. I became pescatarian, and then in college was the first time I tried bacon.
Really?
I decided to jump outside of my scope and try some meats I'd never tried in my life.
Yeah. Well, what did bacon do for you?
Bacon was delicious.
Wasn't it?
To this day, I still eat bacon.
I'm a vegan by force right now because of my cancer, but I think people eat way too much meat. Right. But I think meat has a place.
I subscribe to eat right for your blood type.
Yes.
I really think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yes.
And I studied Eastern rooted practices, so food is medicine.
Yes.
And eating is definitely what's going to take you further into your disease or into health.
100%.
And in Eastern, in Chinese medicine specifically, which is what I studied, there's more than 5 flavors, but the main 5 are sour, sweet, bitter, pungent, salty. Then there's bland. So all foods can fall into most of those categories.
Right.
And then there's temperature profiles to foods as well. So it's hot, warm, cold, cool. There's more neutral for fruits, for vegetables, for meats even. And so according to what your body is telling you and me as a practitioner, that's how we kind of cater to your diet, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much truth to that. There's
such powerful a pillar. So many people, you think about what people eat. You drive around and you see just one fast food place after another.
Oh, yeah.
Everything even going through the grocery store, everything's processed, everything's prepackaged.
On a road trip, sometimes you have trouble finding something clean.
Yeah, just finding some food and
food. So you have to go to the grocery store a lot of the time.
Big time.
Really,
or
the only
find
place.
a fruit stand off the side of the road.
And nobody's really selling soup off the side of the
road.
No, that's a niche that I feel like could be filled.
Or even bread, like a good quality 3-ingredient bread.
Right. With not a bunch of...
You see bread and it's like... Blah, 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 you can't even read most of the words. If it doesn't have, flour, water, and salt and yeast, that's really all you need.
That's all you need, yeah.
Or sourdough starter, and that's it.
Right.
And everything else is like, well, what do I need that for?
Yeah.
Make it soft and spongy or make it not get moldy. Well, bread gets moldy, so eat it before it goes bad,
Exactly.
So, I think that's maybe one of our biggest problems, especially here in America, where everything's so easy and convenient and cheap. And
my journey kind of scaled in and out of that, though, because it wasn't my first interest. My first major was actually business.
Oh, really?
And I went from that to pre-pharmacy. I thought I wanted to be a pharmacy tech just because it was an easy route, and I was pretty good at the sciences. And then I realized I was just doing
job security. There's always going to be that.
But it's not something I believed in. It's not something I've ever subscribed to. So I was like, why am I doing this for the wrong reasons? And so then I fell into the botany program at Weber State University in Utah, which is where I was living at the time.
All right.
And they did a natural medicine route. And I was like, cool, well, this is, 45-minute commute for both me and like my job, but I think I could sacrifice that for 2 years. So I did that while I was a flight attendant.
Oh, wow.
And then, I got the degree, and then I was like, wait, I really like the field side of botany. Okay. So even though I didn't get that degree, I have career ADHD is what I like to call it. And so I did a couple field jobs for about 4 seasons. I did seasonal botanical work all around, Utah, Colorado, Alaska, and then finally landed in the North Bay area where there's a Chinese medicine school. And I was like, it's time for me to tap into that. Prior to that, I tried Chinese medicine for the first time probably 10, 15 years before that. Okay. When I broke a pinky toe. And I went to a acupuncturist. Okay. That did E-stem just on the pinky toe. Didn't do any other points on my body. Just direct E-stem, and on that pinky toe, he's like, within 5 treatments, we should get you back to health. And this is after 3 months of me nursing it, right? Wow. You can't do much for a broken pinky toe. And I was a flight attendant at the time, so just wrapping it, walking around, icing, and heating, and doing what I could, but it was so painful. Yeah. And sure enough, within like the second treatment, I was like, oh, there's something here. Like, this feels amazing already. And then within that 5th treatment, I was back to normal. Wow. And fully like functional.
Well, that'll catch your attention pretty quick,
huh? And at that time, I was already like, I want to go like the naturopathic route, but I don't know what. And I thought of like an OD degree. I don't know. It just didn't hit the right buttons for me. When I had that treatment for acupuncture, I was like, I think this is it. I want to study Chinese medicine. Yeah. And definitely took a lot of commitment on my part, and a lot of honestly like isolation, because I moved so much for just the work, for the job, and then I stayed for chasing the career. So throughout my life, I've always just gotten used to moving, and it was fun at the time. And now I'm just like, it's not fun anymore. Like, this last move back to Los Angeles, I'm hoping will be my last. I'm not hoping, we create our path. So I am setting myself to stay there for at least 5 years. Or longer, that's where my family is. That's where my parents are growing old, and it is very nice to be back right now. And
hi, this is Joe Grumbine, and I wanted to share an update. The platform that hosts this podcast has made some changes to the subscriber settings, and we have a number of subscriber-only episodes that we offer to the supporters, and for a minimum of $3 a month, we can get you signed up. And if you're already signed up and you're having some kind of trouble locating these episodes in the other platforms, I would say maybe the best answer is to unsubscribe and then resubscribe. I'm sorry for the hassle. I don't have any way to make a change, but I'm very grateful for all the support. Thank you.
And a great time to be here with you.
Absolutely. And our paths have just crossed, and I can see a future together, working together and helping people to heal.
Thank you, I do too. Yeah, we have very similar mindsets.
Exactly.
And viewpoints on life.
And the cool thing is you know things I don't know, and I know things you don't know, and we can share our experiences and learn from each other. And I think Chinese medicine has always interested me. I've never really studied. I've been an herbalist for most of my life, but that's, such a general term. And I've studied herbs that grow around me for the most part, Native American herbs and European herbs for the most part. But I deal with some Chinese stuff. But I can remember I've worked with a lot of plant people for many, many years. And I long time ago had a girlfriend up in Oakland, and she was a longtime herbalist, and we went to this Chinese pharmacy, and it was literally bins of plants and animals and all these different things, and it was minerals. Like she had this prescription for a soup, And then the guy came in and he's like, here's all your things, and you put it together and you make your soup, and that's your medicine. And I was like, wow, there was something about that really struck a chord with me. I go, that's really important. And I was in my 20s, it was like, I think you know things, but you don't. And, but that really hit me as to the power of food as medicine. And it really, ever since that point, I've always looked at what I eat and in a different way. And you go, what am I really putting in there? And it's a weird thing because it's almost like counterproductive, because if it tastes good, it's generally not that good for you. And if it tastes, generally, exactly. And then you learn to adapt your taste.
Honestly, what I've found the most interesting about herbs is, and somebody told me this before it actually happened to me, and then that's, I think, why I noticed it. But one of my favorite herbs professor mentioned that if it's the right formula for you, it might taste like ass at first, but
you'll get to like it. The more you
drink it, you actually crave it because it's your body telling you this is what you need.
Exactly, because it knows what it's getting from it. And I've always had an affinity for bitters. And bitters are generally tonic. They usually have, if it's bitter, it probably is doing something for you positive. And I've always had I like things that are bitter. So I've always, when I make my formulas, a lot of times people are like, I don't know, it doesn't taste. I'm like, I did not make it for its taste.
Yeah. Well, in Chinese medicine, bitter is associated to the heart or the fire channel, so like heart and small intestine. So it's possible, you're deficient in, what is that? In the salty, so like wood, fire, earth, metal, water attributes. Okay. So like, it's possible. I haven't looked at your tongue or looked at your pulse, but like sometimes you do crave, or other times you're craving and it's not necessarily needed in your body.
Right. And
so it's because you're eating so much bitter that it's creating this other pathogen in your body.
Could very well be.
And so it's not necessarily if you crave it, you need it, but sometimes.
It definitely can be that.
It could be that, for sure.
And I know that I went down this healing journey of, my dad passed away, he was overweight, diabetic, sleep apnea, heart disease, all the stuff. And I was looking at myself, and I was 50 pounds overweight.
You're like, that's what
and I'm like, oh no, that's going to be me. So I'm like, I got this wake-up call.
That's good.
And I started studying nutrition better, and I started...
What was your wake-up call?
My dad passing. And realizing that I was going to be him. And I had that genetic...
How old was you when he passed?
70.
Okay.
Way too young.
Yeah, that is young.
And he was a surgeon, and he knew better. Yeah. And he just had a stressful life and made a lot of bad choices. Yeah. And so I started, studying nutrition and changing the way I ate, and began this journey. And I don't regret it for a second, And I've learned that I used to love and crave, sugar and bread and all the things that do bad things to you if you have too much of them, and never ate enough vegetables, and I did everything wrong. And I just started being a little more careful, started switching my diet and paying attention to the foods and making food and cutting out all the processed stuff. And all of a sudden I lost 50 pounds in less than a year, and I've kept it off for 7 years. Wow. And what happened was, I started growing more vegetables and started really eating, huge amounts of vegetables as part of my diet, and started craving them. It started to really become like, give me a big bowl of broccoli and some olive oil, and I'll just eat it as a meal.
Do you think there's an association to growing your own fruits, vegetables, and then actually eating them?
Oh, absolutely.
If more people grew their own veggies, they'd probably eat them more,
it's exciting.
Right?
Yeah.
It's exciting.
You take care of it, you nurture it.
Of course I want to eat it.
You can't wait to pick it. It's not ready. It's ready now. And then you want to go and eat it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like that. Picking a fresh zucchini. This could be almost
incorporated to your Gardens of Hope.
Yes.
It's find some kind of association that's having trouble getting their people to eat the right veggies.
Exactly.
Come out here and just grow your own lettuce. Maybe if it's just one,
yes.
And then you come out here and come back and eat
your
own salad
harvest
that
it.
you built, and then in community with other things that other people not built but grew.
Exactly. And that's sort of one of the secret treasures of this is that I have volunteers come and everybody plants seeds and everybody transplants, and I actually mix the soil from scratch. So we have, all of this love and attention put to these things.
Beautiful.
And then everybody gets to harvest. And sometimes you harvest the one you planted, and sometimes you harvest the one the guy next to you planted. But you become part of this community of
and cycle of healing.
Exactly. So I really believe that, and eventually, like, I got this whole plan that eventually we're it's all organic, it's all heirlooms, so the seeds from the vegetables grow, and so eventually we're going to have our own strains that are grown here for generations, and they will ultimately become tailored to this place. And eventually we'll have those seeds that we'll have available. People can take, the Gardens of Hope seeds home with them.
That's beautiful.
So it's all coming.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in incorporating some Chinese medicine?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I've been collecting seeds.
Oh, wonderful.
For the past couple years.
Yeah.
And I have yet to put any of them
I would be honored.
Because I move so much. And that's one of my missions, being back here and knowing that I'm going to stay for a while.
Yeah.
I actually had a place where I potentially was going to put them earlier this season, and that fell through. And so kind of the season's almost too late to start by seed. But honestly, about half the seeds that
you'd be surprised. You can grow things later than you think.
What it takes. So some of them, I'm sure it's still time now. But would you be interested in a dedicated?
I think that'd be fantastic. We have actually a hillside that we're making our herb garden. Yeah. And we can take a corner of that, and that can be our little Chinese corner.
Cool.
I think that would be fantastic.
And a lot of these. I've learned, I wouldn't say a lot because I don't know enough, but some of the ones I've researched, I've seen grow along the coast of California and Mexico. Yeah. So even though it's not that exact genetics that would be in China, and it would be different because the environment's different anyway.
Different soil, things like that.
And the species might be slightly different, but there's a lack of research there as to what we can grow locally.
Absolutely.
And what that benefits. Because honestly, since we live here, it is possible that we can benefit even more from that local source.
And our region
here, and it's getting harder and harder to bring herbs in from China that are actually unsulfated or untreated, and it's gonna get harder and harder.
It's just gonna keep getting harder,
especially as the environment keeps changing and the temperatures everywhere. So I think being adaptable and being like, okay, this isn't the right exact species that they used traditionally, but how can we grow from this, and where can we still heal?
Agreed. And the truth is, herbs are so complex that it's not like a single molecule drug where you can study this one drug and how its systems are, what it does. And every single herb is a symphony of compounds, and they're complex. And generally, you don't just take one. You generally combine things. So you have this entourage effect of so many pieces.
Even within the same species. One grows here, one goes there, and it's going to release different secondary metabolites. It's inevitable, and it's going to grow bigger or smaller because it's adapting.
And in each person, it's going to react differently to their own environment. And so much of holistic healing and natural modalities are intuitive and based on practice. And it's not such an exact science as a whole science. And, you learn techniques, and you learn to observe, and you learn to notice when things are doing this, that's what's happening, and you can adapt and adjust. And you learn, the ideas, the concepts, the categories of things. You've got these brackets of types of things and types of systems and all of that. But really, when it comes down to like the specifics in a molecular level, it's so complicated. You really can't honestly put your finger down on this stuff.
You can. It just costs a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Research, clinical research, as well as like trials and
all of it.
People want to get paid for this because they're either students or graduates, and it's just not easy to come by. Without the time and money. And so, I don't know. I feel like there is room for potentially like NGO grants in this aspect?
I think there totally is.
As far as like funding research to find out these small differences between things that have already been researched.
Absolutely.
And things that we can change to make it better,
right,
because we're growing it locally, or because we're using less water, less resources.
So many different
all these little things,
variables you can kind of tweak a little bit. That's a big thing of Gardens of Hope, is it's a series of experimental gardens. And, you know, there's all these permaculture techniques and claims and this and that. I says, well, you know, there's also so many different regions and so many different microclimates and so many different ways that it could be different. So you over in LA, well, you got a whole different way that the sun and the wind and the moisture and all of the elements affect you and even the... This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.